of the Living Dead. Oh man, now we're into the real good stuff. Not to be confused with any of Romero's Dead movies, Return is its own beast entirely. Very simple premise. They very quickly tell us that within this world, Night of the Living Dead was a true story. After that incident, a shipping screw-up sent the chemical that caused all that, dubbed trioxin, to this warehouse where...
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
That's how you start a goddamn movie. Return of the Living Dead completely establishes that the rules of your average zombie movie don't apply here. When the first zombie shows up, which looks strikingly similar to the yellow bastard from Sin City, they literally nail its head to the floor with a pickaxe and it doesn't do shit. So headshots don't work here. Great. I love how trioxin brings everything that was dead back to life, not just people. Also, the zombies talk.
Come in dispatch. Send more paramedics.
And actually have intelligence. Imagine living in a world where zombies could plan ambushes. I wouldn't last 2 seconds. And in a scene that no zombie movie has ever done before to my knowledge, they actually take the time to explain to us why zombies want our brains so much.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Brains only.
Yes.
Why?
The pain.
What about the pain?
The pain of being dead.
Every time I watch this scene, I'm reminded of a book I read years ago called City of the Dead, and it's a book that... Alright, there's a scene where a mad scientist fucks the corpse of a zombie on a table while she's, like, screaming to him, yeah! Fucking disobey your god! Go against your god! Fuck. It's, like, really... It's a fucked up book. And then every time I tell people about it, they always look at me like I'm fucking crazy. I'm not crazy. It was a good book. It's just that for some reason, that one scene of the dude banging the corpse is like the only scene that sticks with me. As you can obviously tell, the special effects in this movie are awesome. No computer effects here. This is practical effects at its finest. I mean, just look at Tarman. The way he moves around like a human slinky. That is one damn good special effect. That shit freaked me out when I was a kid. None of the characters are particularly likable, but every single one of them is memorable. And they all kind of fit perfectly into the 80s stereotypes. You got the goody two-shoes prep who's all bubbly, the emo David Bowie looking chick named Trash that fantasizes about getting eaten and dances naked on a tombstone, which is an awesome scene by the way, a greaser with face chains, a nerd that looks exactly like you'd expect a nerd to look in the 80s, it's all here. To me, this makes the movie a lot more fun. It gives you the same feeling you'd get from a slasher flick like Friday the 13th. You don't care what happens to them, you just want to see chaotic zombie madness, and that's exactly what this movie delivers in droves. The tone here is fun, from the soundtrack to the comedy, to the pace. It makes this movie pretty much mandatory Halloween material. Seriously, I mean, I never really got the whole Rocky Horror Picture Show thing. I've never liked that movie, and it always bugs me that it's always the default Halloween flick the theaters show at midnight screenings. What about Return of the Living Dead? Come on, it's perfect for that. This movie is criminally underrated. It doesn't come up nearly as much as it deserves to be brought up, and it's easily one of my favorite zombie movies. Actually, it's probably one of the best movies from the 80s, period. If you want something that's gonna have you laughing your ass off and entertaining you consistently all the way to the end, check it out.
1969, the Darrell Chemical Company, under contract to the U.S. Army, conducted a series of secret experiments with a new biological weapon called 2,4,5-trioxin.
Return of the Living Dead is without a doubt one of the greatest zombie movies of all time. So when a sequel was announced, you could damn well bet that the bar was raised really, really high. I mean, this movie's got one of the coolest posters ever, so already I think we're on the right track.
Get that damn screwdriver out of my head!
Oh, god damn it. They didn't hit the bar. They slipped on a fresh pile of shit and face planted before they even touched the mat. So, in Return 2, the military is transporting a few barrels of trioxin. One of them falls off the truck, and a bunch of idiot kids, led by one of the most 80s bullies ever, decide to fuck with the barrel and let out the trioxin. Seriously, this kid reminds me way too much of Lucas from that Wizard movie.
Shut up, Whip. finders keepers, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what he really reminds me of? That fucking kid from that Legend of Zelda commercial. You know the one I'm talking about.
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System.
Meanwhile, James Karen and Tom Williams return from the first movie playing completely different characters. This time they play grave robbers who, guess what, get infected and slowly die, exactly like they did in the first movie. Except this time they aren't likable people, they're just annoying as fuck. Actually, everyone in this movie is annoying as fuck. Especially this chick. Oh my god, dude, all she does is yell. I swear to god, it's like the director told her to yell every single line in the script. So, does the Trioxin have the magical ability to control the weather or some shit? Because as soon as it gets into the sky, it starts raining again, so that the chemical can, conveniently seep its way into yet another graveyard. It's literally the exact same thing that happened in the first movie. But the zombies get up, the wacky hijinks ensue. Seriously, this feels like a Halloween version of a Looney Tunes animation. Oh my god, what is that music? It's like someone sticking a dick in my ear. Apparently the original version of Return 2 has a completely different soundtrack, and when it came out on DVD due to some rights issue with the music, they had to completely alter the movie's entire soundtrack and replace it with whatever the hell this is. Fortunately, the Blu-ray release restored the original soundtrack. I was just unfortunate enough to watch the version that had the ass music. This movie's tone is one of its biggest issues. It's clear they were trying to mimic the magic that the first movie had, but completely missed the mark and went balls deep in a parody territory. This is the scary movie of zombie movies. I mean, when you've got scenes like this, and this, you know you've done something wrong. It feels like they were trying too hard to go the E.T. and Gremlins route. The original movie didn't feel like it was trying to be something else, and it didn't feel like a parody. It's its own entity. Tarman makes a reappearance, but he looks nothing like the first movie. You can tell not nearly the same level of effort went into this thing. And the sad thing is, he doesn't look that bad, but the problem is this version comes right after the absolutely stunning original Tarman, so it's a huge fail. In general, the whole movie feels cheaper than the first one, but there are some decent practical effects still, like this great scene where zombies blasted in half by a shotgun. Apparently this scene was the only reason the movie got an R rating. And apparently during the big electrocution scene, every bolt of electricity had to be drawn by hand and cost around $50,000 to do. Just think about that. Some dude got paid 50 grand to draw blue lines. Oh, and you gotta love how a zombie dressed up like Michael Jackson in Thriller casually walks into frame and dances, completely ignoring the fact that every zombie in there is being electrocuted to death. If he was able to walk, then he clearly had the brains to see all of his buddies being zapped to death and should have thought, maybe I shouldn't walk into the death trap. Or maybe the director just fucked something up. Who cares? God, it's so stupid.
George, go get Dr. Mandel!
Oh god, I'm fitting a bust. Come on, you can't tell me that dude ain't jerking off. Look, here's the thing. Return of the Living Dead 2 is beyond stupid, but if it had been released as something else, something other than a sequel to one of the best movies from the 80s, it may have fared better with people. It has some decent effects and a pretty kick-ass 80s rock soundtrack if you ignore the god-awful DVD version, but they didn't do that, so it sucks. It sucks hard. They tried to mimic the magic of the original, but didn't grasp what made the first movie so damn good. To put it in perspective, I watched the original every single Halloween. This movie I'll probably never watch again.
God, Julie, what are you doing? You're so mental.
You ever get so bored that you think, I think I'm going to burn myself with a lighter today. Fuck it. Return of the Living Dead 2 was a massive pile of crap that failed on many levels. It failed as a comedy, it failed as a horror movie, and it failed as a parody, which it shouldn't have even been in the first place. Thus, 5 years later, Brian Yuzna, director of Bride of Reanimator, Beyond Reanimator, and the writer of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, no joke, brings us Return of the Living Dead 3. Return of the Living Dead 3 tells the story of two lovers, Julie and her boyfriend Kurt, who sneak into a research facility where Kurt's dad works and is doing unspeakable things with corpses and trioxin. Apparently, this first zombie was a homeless dude named Clarence Epperson who thought he was hot shit and kept asking for money, limos, and hoes. Okay, I made up the hose part, but I don't doubt it. Dude was a player. They also explained to us finally what the true purpose behind trioxin was. Did you think it was originally supposed to work as a bioweapon, or was it supposed to bring the dead back to life? Nope. Trioxin's true purpose was to combat the diabolical evils of weed. Well, that's anticlimactic. Anyway, Kurt and Julie decide to run away together, but while Julie is manhandling Kurt's naughty bits, they crash. Julie flies face first into a pole and dies. Kurt takes her back to the facility and gives her the trioxin, but rather than being subtle about it, he pretty much just lets it all out, including its host zombie. This thing is fucking awesome looking. It's a million light years better than anything they had in Return of the Living Dead 2, which is crazy because this movie cost over $4 million less than that movie cost. Also, it reminds me of a Bandersnatch from Resident Evil Code Veronica. Ugh, God, I hated those things. Just goes to show, budget isn't everything. Find you a special effects guy who knows his craft and you can create anything. Mind you, the rest of the special effects aren't quite up to par with this zombie, but they still have that cheese factor charm to them. Shit hits the fan when Julie and Kurt run into a group of typical 90s gang members playing Street Fighter 2, because I mean, what the fuck else did you do in the 90s? The shop owner gets shot, and during the escape and subsequent police chase, the cops just blow his brains out without a second glance.
What's that noise? Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
You, in the van! Put your hands on your head and step out of the driver's side door!
Oh, so you'll give Kurt plenty of warning to give himself up peacefully, but that Asian dude? Fuck that guy. Nice. Real nice. So basically, Julie now has this undying hunger that won't go away unless she hurts herself. So throughout the movie, she starts stabbing herself with various pokey things until she turns into, well, Mecha Julie, or Julie X, whatever you want to call it. She looks badass, but unfortunately for YouTube, but fortunately for us viewers, they decided both her tits needed to be out for this costume. So I can't really show much of her. Melinda Clarke's performance here is really quite good, and I swear it's not just the breasts that are making me say that. She's actually really good. Kurt and Julie are actually interesting and relatable characters, so unlike Return of the Living Dead 2, where every character sucked ass from a goose, in this movie you actually want to see these two make it through. But that's the tragedy of it all, since we already know Julie's dead. This can only end one way. Return of the Living Dead 3 only made $54,000 at the box office, which translates to nobody saw this. And I get it, the original movie is one of the greatest zombie movies of all time, so when you see this poster, it's very clear that this is something very different. But that's why it's good. It tried something new, it took things in a different direction. Brian Yuzna was not content just rehashing the original plot, but making it shittier like Return of the Living Dead 2 did, and it clearly didn't pay off in the end, sadly, but it really should have. This movie is easily the best of the Return of the Living Dead sequels, and I'd go so far as to say that it's a bit of a criminally underrated gem. Give it a chance if you never bothered to watch it before. It's a cheesy but solid zombie movie. Just don't go into it expecting levels of quality like the original movie, but keep an open mind.